and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 392, and today's date is June 16th, 2014, and the title of this episode is Iraq's Popular Uprising Shadowed by U.S. Terrorism Propaganda. And what are we seeing right now? Well, we are seeing the corporate media and the U.S. government out there telling us that, yes, it's terrorism, it's terrible, it's horrific, and they're continually pushing this over and over and over and over. They are pushing very hard. Why is the U.S. government, corporate media pushing so hard? What don't they want you to see? That's it. They don't want you to see that this is a popular uprising by the people of Iraq. The people in there are saying, enough's enough. We do not want this puppet regime in there. We do not want the United States government central bankers in here. We want them out, and we want them out now. We have to think back, why did the Iraqi government shut down Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube? What specific reason would you do this for? Because they didn't want the information being leaked out to the world of what really is going on here. And what's really going on here is that the people are saying, enough's enough, we want it back. And of course, we understand that these people taken over Mosul, and now people are coming back and they're saying, you know what? They're very friendly. They didn't hurt us. Actually, power has been restored. We see prices are down in the region, and actually, we have no problem. We were more afraid of the leader of Iraq bombing the entire area, and that's why we left Mosul. And we can see that most of the people right now are saying they're welcoming this. And this is starting to spread and get bigger and bigger as time goes on. The United States central bankers are very worried. They need to make a case that there is a very, very big problem out in Iraq, and they're doing it. I see it on every single corporate media station that they are terrorists, that they're going to commit another 9/11 here in the United States. We need to get in there as fast as possible. They are unrelenting in their propaganda. They're not letting up, and when you see the U.S. government, the corporate media do this, you know they have a specific mission into getting into Iraq. And we have to remember, Congress has to declare war. They need to vote on it. The president just can't go in there and strike. Well, maybe he can. He pretty much doesn't listen to anything else because he has a pen and a paper and he can do whatever he wants. But the Congress really has to say, yes, we will say there's an act of war. You can go in there and strike, and this is why everything is being set up right now. We have an aircraft carrier sitting outside, assault ship sitting outside of Iraq at this time, and they are getting ready, positioned, and they're hoping with all this propaganda they can convince the American people and Congress that we need to get into Iraq. We need to wipe them out and keep the puppet regime in power. And while we're doing this, we're going to go to the cause of this, and they're going to hit Syria. This is exactly the move they are trying to make at this time. But don't be confused here. This is a uprising by the Iraqi people. The corporate media is pushing and pushing terrorism, and they are not letting up. Let's get into the economic collapse news. And of course, real estate is not doing what everyone thought it was going to be doing. Of course, we see a little bump up of what has been happening, but consumers are still hesitant and are waiting for the economy to get better before they go out and make that big purchase. Well, I have news. After this spring and summer, real estate is going to start imploding on itself. We're going to see absolutely no recovery whatsoever, and whatever we're seeing right now is just because it's spring and summer. You're going to see this little bump. I said this before in my other reports. We're going to see this little bump, and it's going to start to decline over time. Now we see that City Mortgage is laying off another 180 employees. Wow, so if real estate is recovering and things are getting better, then why are they laying off people in the mortgage departments? It makes no sense whatsoever. I see mortgage departments contracting, real estate contracting, because if things were getting better, everything would be expanding. They wouldn't be able to keep up with all the loans, the mortgages, the refinancing coming into the departments, and they would expand and hire people. But we do not see this because we know that mortgages, refinancing, they're all plummeting, declining, imploding on themselves because the economy is not getting better whatsoever. Now, we understand that The Chinese hold a lot of treasury bonds. We understand that Russia holds a lot of treasury bonds. And we saw Belgium picking up the slack for those countries that were dumping them. Well, it seems like Chinese are starting to dump a little bit more. They went from 1.272 billion to 1.263 billion, but at the same exact time, what did we see? We saw Japan this time pick up almost the exact amount that was being sold by China. So right now we see that Belgium, China, and other places are picking up the slack for those countries that are dumping the treasury bonds. And of course, if you have a seller, you need to have a buyer, and this is exactly what we're seeing. Now, we understand that the United States spies on the American people, spies on the government officials, uses this information to blackmail certain people. We understand that they're creating lists of people. It's also happening out in London. London's Metropolitan Police have been keeping tabs on two Green Party politicians as part of their controversial domestic extremist database, despite neither individual having a criminal record. Through the use of data protection laws, Jenny Jones, a London Green Party peer, and Ian Driver, a local councillor for the party, obtained files on themselves held in the database, which is supposedly used to monitor activists who use criminal means to push their ideas. The working definition of domestic extremist used by the Metropolitan Police states that it relates to the actions of groups or individuals who commit or plan serious criminal activities motivated by a political or ideological viewpoint. And of course, London's doing it. Pretty much all the private Western Central Bank countries are doing it. Of course, yes, the Baltic countries, not the Baltic, the BRIC nations, they are all doing it. Pretty much all the countries do it. But the private Western Central Bank countries realize that the collapse is coming and things are going to get really bad. And what they're doing is they're creating these social profiles on each individual. They're making sure they understand who you're visiting, who you're talking to. They correlate your email, your phone calls, and they create these social profiles and put you on a certain list because they understand when this thing starts to collapse, crumble, and implode on itself, they will need to go and get those people who are going to be a direct threat to the authorities. And those authorities I'm talking about are the government officials. That's why they have DHAs put in place. It is their own military police that they control. They're put in place to protect them. And right now they are dormant, but when they are activated, you're going to see a whole new side of DHS. It'll be something that people will be shocked when it happens. Now, we understand the United States government, the government officials, would love to disarm the American people, and they've been trying very, very hard throughout the many, many years, trying to disarm, and they have all these false flag events of these mass shootings, and they keep bringing it up, trying to see if they can get the votes, and they continually try to do this, and in the meantime, they implement all these other type of laws that restrict gun sales and things like that. Now, in Chicago, we understand it's a gun-free zone. They have very strict regulations on firearms. And right now, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel has proposed an ordinance that will compel all gun dealers to video record sales to discourage traffickers and buyers who use false identification. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, that might happen. But most of these gun sales are being done on the black market. They're not being done in the gun stores for trafficking, because that'd be the most ridiculous place to do it. They're getting their weapons in other areas. If we think back to Prohibition, where did everyone, when they shut down everything and it was a alcohol-free zone, where did all the alcohol come from? Oh, that's right, government officials, the black market, every other place except the everyday citizen who went without alcohol unless they stilled it themselves. The same thing's happening with weapons. They get them on the black market, on the streets, and it is not done through the store whatsoever. Now, the New York Times was out there, and they're saying the economy is hurting because we don't have any major wars. Really, that's why the economy's hurting. Well, why don't we go to the root of the problem of why the economies are really hurting? Because of all this debt, because of the central banking system that we're under. Yeah, we need more wars so more of us can die in battle. Our children can die in battle. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. Let's go to the root of the problem. It's almost like someone who has a disease or something, and all they do is they give medications to kill the pain, but they never go to the source of the disease to cure it. The same thing's happening here. Everyone skirts around the issue of what the major problem is, and that major problem is the central banking system model. That is the problem. This is why we're having problems today, because we are so much in debt. The system is only run to benefit the top people, and this is why we're seeing everything the way we are today. Now, we understand the United States has spent billions of dollars on a U.S. missile shield. But guess what? They spent around $40 billion on a U.S. missile shield. The U.S. missile shield has failed half of its tests on intercepting a mock enemy warhead, making the $40 billion system unreliable. A decade after it was declared operational, the ground-based mid-course defense system, or GMD, cannot be relied on, even in carefully scripted tests that are much less challenging than an actual attack. And this is coming from the Los Angeles Times. The system is not reliable, concurred and recently retired senior military official. We took a system that was still in development, it was a prototype, and it was declared to be operational for political reasons. However, influential members of Congress are pushing for more interceptors in the eastern United States as a potential cost of billions of dollars. The Obama administration has agreed to expand the system from the current number of 30 interceptors. And what we are seeing here is that this system doesn't work. We are in big trouble if we actually end up going to war, which we're going to end up going to war, because we can see how everything is being played out around the world. We see what's happening in Ukraine. We see how the United States and the puppet regime in Ukraine are forcing and provoking Russia daily. We see what's happening in the Middle East. It is completely falling apart at this time. Now, the Ukraine and Russian gas deal, completely dead in the water. It is going nowhere. It has failed. Gazprom CEO Miller leaves site of Ukraine gas talks. Gazprom says talks ended, deadline won't change. Russia rejected EU's gas proposal. Ukraine was ready to accept EU proposal. And, of course, they laughed at the price they were giving, so nothing came about. And right now, it seems like it is going nowhere. So what's happening? Of course, we know Yatsenyuk has said, be prepared for a gas shutoff on Monday, and we see that Kiev has been pumping in billions of cubic meters of gas into underground storages. Of course, they haven't paid for that gas, and they pumped in about 11.5 billion cubic meters, and they really need 18 billion cubic meters to get them through the winter months, and they won't have enough to keep them going. And Russia has completely halted the gas supplies to Ukraine at this time. Gazprom said it hadn't received payment for its debt. It put a 4.458 billion by a Monday deadline, and they did not receive it. Ukraine will receive gas only in the amounts it has paid for going forward, and it's really not that much. So they're going to end up suffering. Actually, the people are going to end up suffering, and it's going to get worse in Ukraine. Now, Gazprom is saying that they're going to use other pipelines to deliver natural gas to European markets if Ukraine tries to intercept the gas flowing through the country. And it looks like they might be using the Yamal and Northern pipelines. And another route to Europe that bypasses Ukraine is the South Stream, which will eventually deliver about 64 billion cubic meters of gas to Europe. And Gazprom is saying that even if Ukraine tries to reverse the process and get gas from European, they're saying that this will not work, and they're saying European suppliers are unable to provide physical reverse deliveries of gas to Ukraine. It just will not work, even if they attempt to do it. So Ukraine, they're having a very rough time here, and it's not going to be on the government officials. The rough time is going to come on the people. They are going to see no gas, no heat, and everything else that comes along with that, and it's going to make it very difficult for them to survive. Now, Yatsenyuk was out there, and he said something very, very interesting. He will commemorate the heroes by wiping out those who killed them, and then by cleaning out our land from the evil. and he's talking about Ukrainian people who are fighting for their independence, who don't want to be a part of this puppet government, and he's calling them pretty much low life scum, basically, and he's calling them evil, and he's going to wipe them out. So this battle in the southeast region, I don't see this coming to an end anytime soon. It seems like the provoking is continually happening. You can see what happened to the Russian embassy. I reported that on Saturday, and it is getting worse and worse as time goes on. Now, we understand that NATO now is bringing in reconnaissance ships into the Black Sea. French reconnaissance ship will enter the Black Sea Monday night to join Italian intelligence ship Elettra. The U.S. guided missile cruiser USS Velagov left the waters on June 12th after 3 weeks in the Black Sea. And of course, we understand because of the Montreux Convention, they can only be in there for 21 days and they have to leave because they are a non-state Black Sea country, and they have to keep swapping in ships in and out, and this is exactly what they're doing, and they said they were going to do it. Now, we understand that Iran said they were going to help the United States with Iraq, but they weren't going to use military intervention, and they will have talks with the U.S. The U.S. is getting ready for an open dialogue with Iran to discuss Iraq's security concerns and ways of responding to radical Sunni militia that have been gaining ground in western Iraq. Now, Iranian Foreign Ministry was out there, and she said Iran is opposed to any military intervention by U.S. or foreign in Iraq due to the situation there. Uncertain that Iraq possesses the necessary capacity and motivation, folk, to deal with the problems going on right now. But they will talk to the United States and Iran's borders right now. Iran is reporting that there's been no security problem whatsoever along Iran's borders. They have everything in place just in case something happens, but they're seeing absolutely nothing at this time. Now, of course, the State Department is out there, and they're saying, well, we have reports back in April that Iran had trained, funded, and provided guidance to ethnic Iraqi terror groups bent on destabilizing the country. The April warning appears to directly contradict and undermine comments last week by the State Department spokesman claiming that the United States and Iran have shared interest. Despite its pledges to support Iraq's stabilization, Iran trained, funded, and provided guidance to help these groups. And of course, this is what they do. They're blaming Iran right now for the terrorism. They're saying they're behind it. They want these P5+1 talks to go away, and this is what they're ginning up right now to prove their case that yes, they were behind it. And I can tell you, they are not behind this whatsoever. This is a natural uprising of the people who want their country back. Now, of course, Washington is out there. They are condemning the execution of hundreds of Iraqi soldiers by Daesh and described as horrific massacre. Of course, they are providing all the information. And where are all these pictures coming from? I looked at many of them, and some of them don't make sense to me. Their shadowing is wrong. Some of the information some of the pictures you see, the cutout of the people, if you blow it up, you can see that it was cut out very poorly. And of course, since Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are all shut down, ISIS and ISIL, they're out there and they're busy at work showing all this information. No, these are the same type of photos that have been used in Ukraine. When we had to get into Iraq the first time, we've seen these photos in Syria. The United States government, the central bankers, are using this as propaganda to get into Iraq because they realize what is going on there and they need to stop it, or the entire system completely collapses on itself. Now, the United States is getting ready to evacuate the embassy in Baghdad, not the entire thing, part of it. The U.S. is increasing security at its embassy in Baghdad, the U.S. State Department said, adding that some personnel will be moved out of the capital. Some additional U.S. government security personnel will be added to the staff in Baghdad. Other staff will be temporarily relocated both to our consulate generals in Basra and Arbil and to the Iraq support unit in Amman. So they are moving people around here, closing part of the embassy, getting prepared, and we can see what is going to happen. The embassy eventually will be closed down as these forces move into the area, take over Baghdad. This entire system will be shut down, and then we will see the call for airstrikes, troops on the ground, and we'll see World War III start to tick up here. And Australia is also out there saying that they're going to withdraw several officials from Iraq, the country's Department of Foreign Affairs. Due to the very challenging security environment, we are unlikely to be able to provide the level of consular assistance that might be expected, so we need to get those people out there. The USS Mesa Verde, with 550 Marines on board, has reportedly entered the Persian Gulf on Monday for a possible operation in Iraq. It comes after President Obama ruled out sending ground troops to the country of Iraq. And of course, here are the troops coming in right now. Now, the U.S. and U.K. are going to create a joint team to prepare for airstrikes in Iraq. Over a decade after the U.S. and U.K. invaded Iraq in 2003, the military allies have created a joint counterterrorism team to send to the country. British officers are already on their way to prepare for possible airstrikes. SAS, Special Air Service of the British Army, officers were on their way to Iraq this weekend to prepare the ground for possible airstrikes. Kerry says that Obama now is weighing if he should use drone strikes in Iraq at this time, and we'll have to see. And I think they're already using it, but it's not being reported. And this is a complete mess of what is going on in Iraq. The United States central bankers, the corporate media are pushing terrorism. They're continually, nonstop, making sure we understand and believe that these people are committing these horrific events in the country. It almost reminds me of Syria when they came out with all the pictures saying, yes, he gassed his own people, yes, 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 here are the pictures, here are the pictures, here are the pictures, and it seems like they're doing the same thing once again. And ISIS is a combination of Sunni jihadist groups fighting the Shia-backed Damascus government of Assad, and a resurgent units of Saddam's old Ba'athist army, led by the Yazat Ibrahim and al-Dori, the last surviving member of Saddam's inner circle, and a handful of al-Qaeda in Iraq. They are battling to overthrow the U.S.-installed Shia regime in Baghdad of Maliki. Washington now is in major panic over this whole incident. Maliki has totally excluded Sunnis from power in Iraq and uses brutal secret police and torture to repress them. Small wonder he faces a major uprising. Iraq's oil-based economy remains in ruins. Many Iraqis believe their now wretched nation was far off better under Saddam Hussein. As brutal and clumsy as he was, today's artificial Mideast borders were drawn by the Anglo-French imperialists to impose their rule on the region. Iraq and Syria were the most egregious examples. The group now taking control of Iraq appears set on erasing the British-French borders and recreating the unified Ottoman province of Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. And we can see that this is being pushed forward, and this popular uprising continues unabated in Iraq, with successive liberation of its cities and the collapse of Maliki's forces as they retreat and desert en masse in the face of coordinated tribal opposition. Maliki and his patrons in Tehran are insistent on the claim that the regions of Iraq had fallen into hands of extremist terrorists and Islamic State of Iraq in the Levant. And we see the same thing happening in Ukraine. Of course, the puppet regime out there is saying that, yes, these are terrorists, they're taking over, Russia's invading. It seems like it's the same exact thing being played out. And the government there, the puppet regime, is saying, yes, these people are terrorists. They're taking back the country. Of course, he doesn't want to lose his power, but this claim is ludicrous and defies logic. The liberation of approximately 100,000 square kilometers of Iraqi territory, with a population of several million in a matter of few days, could not possibly be the work of an isolated extremist group with no more than several thousand and probably no more than several hundred members. There are increasingly many indications that it is tribes and ordinary ordinary Iraqi citizens who have risen up in anger against Maliki. The Association of Muslim Scholars in Iraq, which plays an important role in development in the country, called on the insurgents to treat people well, help solve their problems, treat the ethnic groups well, refrain from taking hostages, forgive and forget, and treat believers of all religions without prejudice. In this framework, the armed tribes refrained from entering Samarra in Salhadin province, where the shrine of two Shiite Islams is located. They are instead trying to gain control of the city through negotiations with the government forces in order to prevent any killings and bloodshed. And we can see that the whole thing right now is being created, and this whole entire story and this propaganda is being created by the United States corporate media, the United States and central bankers to get back into Iraq to eradicate this uprising. And this is their whole entire reason why you see it all over the corporate media, where they're continually telling you it's terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. Days after the Iraq's second largest city fell to al-Qaeda-inspired fires, some Iraqis are already returning to Mosul, lured back by the insurgents offering cheap gas, food, restoring power and water, and removing traffic barricades. Many people appear excited to return, taking sectarian pride in the extremist Sunni group, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Some see them as liberators. I hope God supports them and makes them victorious over the oppression of Maliki. And this came from an 80-year-old Abu Thayer. Many Surab Arab men and women said they left not because they feared insurgents, but because of the risk of airstrikes by the Iraqi government. We see they have made Mosul better, and this is coming from Abu Muhammad, 34-year-old taxi driver who ferries returnees back to the city. The water is back, the electricity is back, the prices are lower. The anger many Iraqis felt toward Maliki's government only increased after soldiers abandoned Mosul, fleeing before civilians. It's likely that many Iraqi troops fled because they sensed insurgents would be welcomed by long resentful Sunnis, and they did not want to risk their lives for a senseless battle. Many of those who fled said relatives who remained in Mosul began urging them to come back, saying the Sunni insurgents had restored power, water, and were promising not to harm returning residents. Islamic State fighters also removed concrete barriers that snarled traffic through the city and lengthened commutes, often by hours. A canister of cooking gas dropped from $6.85 to $3.40. The fighters forced traders to offer vegetables and key foods at half price. Most returning residents, who appeared to be mainly conservative Muslims, shrugged when asked of the insurgents, warning that they would soon impose their version of strict Islamic law, which includes ordering men to grow beards. Smoking is now illegal, and this reminds me of Iran all over again. And a 50-year-old man, Gufram, is saying they aren't harming people, who was returning to Mosul with her extended family. She wore a Muslim headscarf but not cover her face. Sunnis now feel more safe and more than before, and they are saying that if the insurgents remain like this, their support base will only grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're seeing two sides here of the story. We have the United States corporate media out there telling us that they're terrorists, they're hurting people, they're committing heinous acts, and then we see the other side saying, no, that's not true. What we're seeing, and we agree with them, they're restoring power, water is coming back on, they're not harming people. So we're seeing two sides of the story, and it reminds me of Ukraine. It reminds me of Syria, when the United States central bankers and the corporate media was out there saying that in Ukraine, the government was using snipers to kill their own people. They were shooting people on the street, and it turned out that it wasn't the government. It was actually the opposition who was trying to overthrow the government at this time. In Syria, we see the same thing. Assad is being evil and hurting his own people. He's torturing his own people. He's killing his own people. And here we are again with Iraq, with the corporate media, the United States government, central bankers out there telling us that they are terrorists, they're hurting. We have pictures, here's the proof, and it's going on and on. And of course, then we have our government officials like Lindsey Graham and others out there. Congressman Michael McCall, Mike Rogers, they're all saying that we need to get in there or we're going to see another 9/11. And of course, Lindsey Graham was out there saying the next 9/11 is coming from Iraq and Syria, and it is inevitable, and we need to get into Iraq and then move into Syria. And this is exactly what they're going to try to do. Now, what makes me a little bit worried about this whole thing right now is that they really need to push this and push this hard and get the American people to say, yes, we need to go back into Iraq. Now, remember, we were already in Iraq. We removed our troops, and now they're saying we have to go back in. And last time we went into Iraq, it was a big lie. They made us go in there because they said they had weapons of mass destruction. They were going to use them. We went in there, and there were no weapons of mass destruction, and it was a complete lie. And actually, George Bush is actually on record saying that, yes, they never had weapons of mass destruction, and now they're trying to do it again. Now, the whole thing is, right now, the American people do not want war. They were told that troops are coming home from Afghanistan. Of course, the president said this, which, it's kind of not true. And we had troops being removed from Iraq, and we're saying we're done with this. You told us it was going to be better off, that it was going to be democracy, that you trained and spent billions and billions of dollars in there, and look what is happening. Because the United States central bankers are worried about what is happening in there because of the dollar and the oil, that they will not use the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, just like Iran doesn't, just like Syria didn't. Still isn't, and they're afraid that Iraq is going to do the same thing, and then this will spread to every single other country. Now, how can they get the American people ready for war, begging for war, with a false flag event? And this is what I'm worried about, because the government officials, the corporate media, they're all out there pushing that ISIS, they will attack the United States. It could be another 9/11. They're telling us it's imminent, and the only way today that I can see to convince people in this country to go to war is to have some type of an event. And we understand there are a couple things happening all at once right now. We understand the economy is completely imploding on itself. They realize this. They know it's coming down. They're trying to prop it up. They're trying to keep everything together, and it is falling apart. They tried to get into Syria. They couldn't get in there. Assad won the elections. They're trying to make the case to get back in there, and here we are today with Iraq. Now, if Iraq falls and the people here take back the country, you can be rest assured that the dollar will start collapsing, and this is when they'll really ramp this up. So they can't let this go to chance to say, okay, you know what, let it just go, let the people just do whatever they want in the country, and we'll just sit back. They can't let that happen this time, and I really think they're going to try to use some type of an event someplace to really push this forward. And I could see them using the cyber attacks, blaming it on these terrorist groups, saying that, yes, we have to get into Syria and Iraq at this time, bringing down the economy, knocking out the power, and all of this happening all at once to say, see, this is a bigger problem than we ever thought it was, and we need to go in and get those terrorists. And this is what they're building this up for. This is what they're trying to achieve at this time. This is why they're positioning all the ships in the Persian Gulf. Now, you have to remember, they go into Iraq once again. Do you really think the airstrikes are going to do the job? I really don't think so. They're going to have to put boots on the ground. I really think they're going to be bringing in troops, even though they told us they're not going to. They'll come up with a reason why they have to, because of what just happened or this scenario, and they'll just make it up, and we'll see boots on the ground. Then they're going to march into Syria. And this is where the problem starts, because on the other side of Syria, what do we have? We have Russia and China. We also have Iran, which sides with Syria. They have a pact with each other. Then we have Israel. So we can see how all of this is starting to move together, and we can see how this event is really starting to take shape at this time. And I don't believe they're going to just back off unless something miraculous happens. I don't see it happening, but I can see that the president, England, France, all these countries are getting ready, and they're saying, yes, we need to get into Iraq. We need then to get into Syria, and we can see how this is going to really kick off World War III at this time. And I know I've said this many, many times. If you have not started to prepare and prep yourself for what is coming, I would, because you can see the system is starting to collapse all around us, and you definitely have to be ready for what is coming. And I mean, from everything that we report on every single day leading up to this, you can see they're not going to stop. They haven't stopped in Ukraine. They're continually pushing the anti-terrorism forces. Yatsenyuk is already saying they're going to wipe the evil out of the country. There's no going back at this time. They're only going to push their agenda forward. They're not going to stop. And we can see that they will hit America. Lights will go out. You'll be without power. You'll be without water. We already see the dry runs happening. We already see someone trying to bomb one of the power grid systems. We already see the cyber attack dry run on a power grid. We already understand the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the BATS already have kill switches. They are getting prepared. We already understand they have the bail-in documents all around Europe, Switzerland, Australia, Canada, the United States, England, because they realize when the system comes down, you're on a bank holiday. You will not be able to get your money. Capital controls will be put into effect. This will be blamed on another group, another country, and this is when everything goes crazy. And this is why you need to protect your wealth. You need to have extra meds. You need to have water. You need to have a weapon to protect your family, because those people who are not prepared are really going to be shocked by what is coming, and this is when people get desperate. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.